It's a straw man argument if ever there was one. The idea that banning single-use plastics like straws and styrofoam cups in Canada will help the environment globally or even domestically. Justin Trudeau has announced that if he's re-elected, he'll pursue a ban on single-use plastics. Straws, the sticks that you hold balloons with, things like polystyrene cups. He hasn't yet finalized the list of items that will be banned, but said he'll be taking a cue from the European Union in deciding finally what will be subject to the ban. Here's what Justin Trudeau said when he announced it.
I'm very pleased to announce that as early as 2021, Canada will ban. I'm very happy to announce that as early as 2021, Canada will ban harmful single-use plastics from coast to coast to coast. Our approach, including determining which products fall under the ban, will be grounded in scientific evidence and closely mirror the actions being taken by the European Union and like-minded countries.
Yes, and I've seen the same footage as well that Trudeau mentioned earlier in his statements. I've seen the albatross carcass on the beach with the little plastic containers inside it. I've seen the turtle that had to have the straw pulled out of its nose, bleeding and visibly in pain. And I don't like seeing it. It's unpleasant. I don't like seeing animals suffering. I don't like seeing garbage littering God's creation, the ocean. But what I also don't like is this baseless virtue signaling that a single-use plastics ban in Canada will do anything to reduce the amount of plastic going into the ocean. And it's very easy to reach this conclusion because it isn't Canadian plastic that's going into the ocean. And there's research on this. Most notably, a German study that found 95% of all plastic that ends up in the ocean comes from 10 rivers. 10 specific rivers that make up 95%. None of those rivers are in Canada. 8 of them are in Asia, and 2 of them are in Africa. And even then, the consumer plastics that we hear about, like straws, for example, or plastic bags, are actually down the list quite significantly as far as what is causing the plastic overload in the ocean. A lot of it is abandoned fishing gear, large industrial things, not the small consumer items. And more importantly, when we look at these things, a lot of companies are already leading by example. There are a number of restaurants that have switched to these biodegradable spoons and forks. You have straws that are already going the way of the dodo bird in a number of eateries that will give you paper straws or no straw at all. Starbucks has infamously rolled out that plastic sippy cup for grown-ups instead of having straws in the long term. All of these things have been industry-driven decisions because customers want to be responsible for less plastic output. And I've got no issues with a company that makes this decision, even if it is more for people feeling good than actually doing anything. But once we start talking about the state mandating it, the government that promised evidence-based decision-making is now ignoring the evidence just to win over the environmentalists. Maybe he's worried about a split off to some Green Party support. Maybe Trudeau genuinely believes it. But no study suggests that Canada, which already has a very robust and effective waste management system, is going to see a significant or even an insignificant difference by banning plastic. It just isn't the case. And even in the United States, for example, where an estimated 500 million straws are used a year, the number that are recovered on shores is about 100 and some odd thousand. That's 0.000 and a couple of more zeros there before you get to a number as far as the straws that end up in the ocean. And this is because you have to look at the third world or developing countries that are causing these problems, the countries that have much bigger problems to deal with having to ban plastic, for example, or that just don't care. We cannot legislate their problems away. And again, this is not saying that we should do nothing. It's about recognizing all the work that's being done by the private sector and supporting that. Government can do a lot more rather than legislating these things out of existence simply by making sure that companies are economically well off enough to decide to do these things themselves. Focus on the basics, focus on the economy, and stop with the straw men. For True North, I'm Andrew Lawton.